Like, I just really, really love this man. I don't even know what his name is. I don't mean to be dramatic, but they changed my life forever and ever. Hi, welcome to my April through June reading wrap-up. Most of these books have appeared in reading vlogs of mine, so I don't like to do monthly wrap-ups because hopefully if you're watching my videos, like, you already know how I feel about these books, but if not, or if you just want an overall general view, here it is for you. The first book that I read in April was The Bodyguard by Catherine Center, which is a rom-com about a female bodyguard who is assigned to protect this famous actor, and this famous actor doesn't want to concern his family with the fact that he needs a bodyguard, so he wants to hide it from his family. Therefore, they have to pretend to date to explain why she's there to his family, even though she's just there to make sure that he's safe, which is something that I particularly love. I love the fake dating trope. It's for some reason one of my favorites, like, ever. So of course I particularly enjoyed that trope in this book. Something else I really liked about this book was that the female main character was like a badass. Like, of course, because she's a bodyguard, so she knows how to fight, but she also was just very confident. That was something I really enjoyed about her. Also, another note about this book is I don't usually love the one of us is famous trope, but I really enjoyed this book even though it has that trope, because the man was not a diva. Like, I really don't like the one of us is famous trope because usually someone just acts rich and entitled and like a diva the whole entire time, and I hate that. I feel like we see too much of that in the real world, and I don't want to read about that. Like, reading is like my safe space for pretend. I liked reading about this man. Even though he was famous, he was still very attractive and like kind of humble and like not entitled or like a brat, and that was something I really enjoyed about him. I would highly suggest reading it. I mean, that was my first Catherine Center book as well, and I really thoroughly enjoyed it. The next book that I read was Mistborn by Brandon Sanderson. This is my first Brandon Sanderson book and kind of a reread. So I think 2 years ago I read about to 200 pages in this book, and then I put it down for some reason and I never picked it back up until just recently. This book is about a young thief. Like, she kind of lives on the streets. She, you know, steals for a living, and she joins a rebellion to overthrow the ruler of this world, or I guess this empire that they're in. And along the way, she discovers that she has magical abilities that not many people in this world have. So I went into this with like a lot of expectations. People love Brandon Sanderson. From what I've seen on the internet, people think he's so good at writing high fantasy, that his books are so interesting, all that. Personally, I found this book a little bit boring. I don't feel like there's a whole lot of action in this until the very end, which is not something that I enjoy. I did not love the main character. I thought she kind of had no personality, except for the fact that she didn't trust anyone, which that's fine. I don't think it's a problem that she doesn't trust anyone. I just think that it's a problem that that's her only personality trait. I also feel like I hear people describe his books as like epic fantasy, and I think it was really thoroughly built. Like, the world was extremely detailed, but is that like, sorry, forgive me if this is just like me being stupid right now, but is that the only point of epic fantasy, is for it to be really extremely detailed? Because I do think this world was built very well, super detailed, but like, I was expecting crazy action, like amazing powers. Like, I was expecting so much more. Maybe, and also actually definitely that ties into the fact that I was so disappointed by this book because I had really high hopes for it. So this one was not for me. I do not think I will be continuing this series. I will say that I'm open to another Brandon Sanderson book. I just don't know where else to start. I was recommended to read Mistborn, that trilogy, first to get into Brandon Sanderson. So now, if that's the entry point that I was recommended but I don't like it, I don't know what my other entry point should be. The next book I read was Sunrise on the Reaping by Suzanne Collins. If you don't know about the Hunger Games universe at all, Haymitch, which is the main character of Sunrise on the Reaping, was in the Hunger Games original trilogy as the tributes in the original trilogy's like mentor, because he won the games. So then the 50th games, I think. So then we are getting the perspective of Haymitch in the 50th games competing as tribute. It's so good. I actually am so obsessed with this. I read The Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes when it came out 2-ish, 3-ish years ago, and I thought it was good. I thought it was a good, solid book, but I was not obsessed by any means. But this book I am obsessed with, and I'm so obsessed with this book that I feel like it kind of translated into me liking The Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes better, because they are connected, because The Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes is about President Snow, and obviously President Snow is the president in Haymitch's book. And so it like is tying together so nicely, and I am so, like, I love that book so much. It's so good. I don't know what else to say. I love obviously Hamish is a character. I love the way the book is written. I unfortunately don't have any coherent thoughts for this because I just love it so much, and I just highly, 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 highly recommend reading the Hunger Games prequels. Then I read The Nightingale by Kristen Hanna, which was my first Kristen Hanna book ever, and let me just say, it's soul crushing. So it's about two sisters in France, and they're navigating life during World War II. You see every aspect of it. You see the beginning of World War II, how basically the Germans like kind of slowly started changing the way they lived, how that grew into being just a takeover of France, and how you get to see how each sister fights the war in their own way, which I adored. I loved both of the sisters were fighting against it, but in such different ways. And it's so heart-wrenching. It's so soul-shatteringly sad. I mean, I'm sure you can gather why it's so sad considering it's happening during World War II. Just seeing it through the perspective of two sisters that lived through it together and how they both want to protect each other, but they also want to like fight for their freedom. Yeah, it's a really, really amazing story, and I highly recommend reading this book. The next book I read was A Harvest of Hearts. This is a story about a butcher's daughter whose heart is stolen by a sorcerer. Basically, in this world, sorcerers get their power from hearts, human hearts, but usually they only take a part. For some reason, her entire heart was taken. She goes on a journey to get her heart back from the sorcerer and ends up living in his house as kind of like a disguise of like she wants to get close to him to see if she can get her heart back. She doesn't really want him to know that she knows that he took it. So the house kind of has like a personality, and also there's a talking cat in this book. Through the sorcerer and getting to know him, there's a kind of a mystery surrounding the king and how he's harvesting the hearts and how he's using the sorcerers to harvest the heart, and you kind of follow the characters on the journey of uncovering that mystery. I think this book was really incredibly slow. We spent a lot of time at the beginning of her just spending time in this guy's house, and I understand that's like supposed to be the kind of build up and like they're supposed to be getting to know each other, but because the sorcerer is supposed to be like moody and mysterious and like distant or whatever, they don't really get to know each other very quickly. So I just feel like we spent a lot of time wasting time, because I would say the last quarter of this book is actually pretty interesting, but I just completely lost interest by that point, that I wish that it had been a little more interesting a little sooner. Also, I will give you fair warning that the main character of this book does not shut up about how plain she is, how ordinary she is, how every other girl in her town is so much more gorgeous than she is, how she can't imagine anyone would ever look at her in any way besides platonic. And I usually don't care about that in books, but she actually talks about it so much in this book that it drives me crazy. It drove me crazy. Honestly, the talking cat was like not a great side character like you would think. Obviously, I love cats. I have two cats. If I hear there's gonna be a talking cat as a side character in a book, I'm gonna be interested, but the cat kind of was not really necessary, and that breaks my heart to say, because I would love a cute talking cat as a sidekick, but no, this book just was not for me. And then I read Half a Soul by Olivia Atwater, and it's about, honestly kind of similar to the last book, this girl who has half a soul. It was taken by a fairy, I believe, and it takes place during like Regency England. So she's supposed to be finding a husband and like going to these like balls, very Bridgerton-esque, I believe. But since she has half a soul, it like took her, I don't know, ability to filter her thoughts, emotions, feelings, whatever. So like she kind of just says everything that comes to her mind. She acts however she wants. Like she doesn't really care about being proper, which of course in Regency England is like very important. She eventually meets this man who kind of has like a reputation for being aloof and like not interested in finding a wife, but she befriends him because there's this situation that he's investigating scientifically. I feel like that sounds really vague, but obviously I can't tell you exactly what's happening. However, she's also interested in helping him solve this mystery situation that's happening, and so she kind of like teams up with him to help him get to the bottom of like what's happening. And that was something that I was really intrigued in. The whole entire plot point of like, basically there's this illness going around. They need to find how people are contracting this illness and like what happens to them when they contract the illness. But I would say 3/4 of the way into the book, it kind of changes directions. And I don't like the direction that it started going in, if that makes sense. So I really liked the first 3/4 of the book. I thought it was great, but the last quarter I was kind of losing interest because it wasn't on the same path as the original, as the rest of the book. I would still say it's a really cute book, definitely very cozy. Not like a ton of action happening, but it's cute. I definitely think it's cute. These ones I'm just gonna talk about all in a row, even though I did not read them all in a row. I picked up Swift and Saddled by Lila Sage because I read Done and Dusted like 2 years ago on my Kindle, and honestly these covers are so cute. I was like, I actually just want to buy these books, and I know I'm gonna like them because I do love a cowboy romance, I will not lie. So this is a small town cowboy romance between a cowboy and an interior designer. She comes to his ranch to fix up this like barn that they have to turn it into like an Airbnb situation, and that's how, you know, it's like forced proximity. They spend a lot of time together, or the first night that they had met they had a lot of chemistry, and then they find out that they're working together, basically. There's tension and forced proximity. And I thought this was really cute. I've heard a lot of people say that this is their least favorite book in this series, and I don't really understand why. Like, I don't think there's anything particularly wrong with it. Obviously, that's just a matter of taste, but yeah, I thought this was really cute. And then the next one after that is Lost and Lassoed by Lila Sage, where, once again, another cowboy, and then she is, I guess, a fashion designer. I don't really know entirely what her job title is, but she nannies his daughter. He's a single dad, and she's also his sister's best friend. So technically, I believe this book is brother's best friend. No, best friend's brother, and then I guess sister's best friend. Yeah, anyways. This book was just okay in my opinion. I really thought this one was like fully loaded of cheesy stereotypes. Like, the fiery redhead trope is really getting to me. Like, I don't really want to read about fiery redhead nannies anymore. So I don't know, that's just like a cliche that's really getting to me, and I think it kind of dawned on me while I was reading this book. So I don't want to blame this book for that, but I would say it was like a large contributor to me having those feelings about not wanting to read super stereotypical characters in romances if I can help it. I don't know, this one was just okay in my opinion. I didn't love either of the characters. I didn't think their chemistry was that great. I just kind of read it because I had it and I wanted to continue the series. The last one in the series is Wild and Wrangled by Lila Sage. And this one was so good. So this one is, he's a cowboy, kind of? No, he's definitely a cowboy. He was like a famous cowboy, left their small town to like travel the world to be a cowboy, came back. He does something specifically in the cowboy industry. I don't know what though. But he comes back to Rebel Blue Ranch, which is the ranch that all of them are set on, and he works with like the other men in the book. So he's not like part of the family, but she kind of is because her daughter is also the guy from the last book's daughter, if that makes sense. So they had a kid together. So she's kind of in the family. Anyways, so it's like single mom as well, and she's kind of going through a tough time with like her parents being super controlling. They wanted her to marry this other guy, and then it fell through because it was kind of like an arranged marriage, honestly, between like two rich families. And so she's kind of like trying to rediscover herself and like find out who she really is. And this man has been down bad for her since high school. So it's a second chance romance. They dated in high school, a little bit into college, and then broke up. You know, you don't know why at the beginning. So he's been in love with her literally forever. And honestly, he doesn't try to hide his feelings, especially like, you know, towards the reader, but honestly a little bit towards her, the main character as well, the main female character, because he's just so in love with her and it's adorable. And he's also one of the hottest book boyfriends I think I've ever read. I just think he's so cute that he cares about her so much, and he like literally was willing to do anything for her, literally no matter what. He doesn't even, you know, at the beginning he doesn't even care if they're together or not. He just cares about her as a person. He cares about her daughter, and he's also like fully tattooed. Ugh. He's so cute. Like, I just really love this man. I don't even know what his name is. What is his name? Dusty. Dusty is so cute. So this one was by far my favorite. I highly recommend this book specifically, but also the entire series. I think all of these books are like less than 400 pages. Definitely less than 400 pages. Honestly, probably less than 350. But I really recommend the entire series. It's just so cute. Also, obviously, like if you like cowboy romance, you're gonna like them. I'm gonna do the next series all together as well because I read the entire Beartown trilogy. And I don't mean to be dramatic, but they changed my life forever and ever because I have never read a book written as well and as beautifully as these all three books. And I think the whole point is you don't care about hockey, you're not reading it for hockey, but it's like the entire series surrounds hockey, so you can't get away from it, but like that's the whole entire point because the town also can't get away from it. if that makes sense. To go into a little bit more detail, because I don't think that made any sense at all, Beartown is a town, a very small town. Their main source of entertainment is hockey. So most every child in this town like grows up playing hockey. I think that's like a joke, a running joke throughout the entire book, is like kids from Beartown learn how to skate before they learn how to walk, because it's so important to this town. And the first book focuses mostly just on hockey and a few characters from Beartown, but as you go on, it kind of expands. You're introduced in the first book to also, there's a rivaling town called Head, and it's like similar size to Beartown, also only really cares about hockey, like, and also just like competing for honestly everything, like the best hockey team, the best resources, the best like ways to run their towns, basically. I know this is not a very good description, but these are extremely character-focused books, so it's hard to tell you what the plot is, because the plot, I don't want to say the plot doesn't matter, but like the characters are the books. And the characters are literally real people to me. Like, I am fully invested in every single one of these characters' lives. Like, they are my best friends. Like, they are my family. Like, I need to know that everyone is going to be okay and like everything works out, because I care about everyone's well-being in this book. And I think that's just like all I can really tell you, because like I said, like the characters are the books. It's not about what it's about. I please read those books. Highly recommend. And then I read Yellowface by R.F. Kuang, which is a story about a white woman steals her Asian friend's manuscript, and the manuscript heavily relates to Chinese history, and so basically you follow along with the main character as she steals the manuscript, decides to embellish it, write it, rewrite it, to make it her own. Follow her through the entire publishing process as well, and her rise to fame, and then, you know, skeptics on the internet saying like, this doesn't sound like something she's written before, this doesn't sound like something she would know about, and you follow very closely with the after effects of stealing somebody else's work, which is extremely interesting. I think the premise of this book is amazing, and I was really hooked from the beginning. I do think it kind of lost me probably like halfway through the book. I kind of started to not care anymore. I still needed to know how it ended, and I do think it kind of went off the rails a little bit towards the end. It lost the plot maybe a little bit. So I don't know. I don't love how the book ended, therefore I rated it accordingly, but I do still think the book is really good and very important to read. And then I read The Favorites by Lane Fargo, which is basically, as I described it, insufferable characters with an addicting plot, which is just rich people drama surrounding ice dancing. Take that as you will. It's extremely drama heavy, kind of fast paced, honestly, because it's like drama is just happening the whole entire time. It's pretty fast paced because it's basically just drama and high stakes competition woven together repeatedly. You're introduced to the characters as teenagers when they start ice dancing, so you're basically, the book follows their entire ice dancing careers, which I really appreciated because I really liked the backstory and how you got to see how hard they have to work for it. I did think it was a little bit too long though. The ups and downs are very interesting until it gets to be like too up and down, to where it's like we're almost losing the conclusion, and then we get to the conclusion and it's like, okay, I wanted the conclusion maybe 100 pages ago. I love the drama, but it's hard when the drama goes on for the entire book, and then you also are seeing how the characters are kind of insufferable and you're not really rooting for the characters anymore. So of course the drama keeps me interested, but I'm not necessarily like rooting for anyone in the end, which makes me lose a little bit of personal connection to the characters. And then I read Great Big Beautiful Life by Emily Henry, which is a book about two writers that are competing to write the biography of this really influential socialite. She came from a really big family, had a lot of big family drama and history. I actually really liked the main female character of this book. I think also in typical Emily Henry fashion, her main female character was a little quirky, but I still liked her. I didn't think she was too quirky. And I really liked that you could feel the chemistry between the characters, but since they're in this like kind of competition situation, they don't want to officially date because that could be extremely messy. So then there's kind of a lot of tension because they have all these like unspoken feelings, and there's a time limit, so they can't say their feelings for a certain amount of time. They have to basically just sit with it and not really act on it, which is something that I love. I also personally really enjoyed Margaret's story, who was like the rich socialite from a very powerful family. I thought it was really interesting. I know that that was a big sore spot for a lot of people on the internet when this book came out, but I didn't mind it at all. I feel like people were saying that they felt like they didn't get the romance at all because it was so focused on Margaret's story, but I really do think that The Great Big Beautiful Life reads exactly like a normal Emily Henry book. You just get somebody else's life included, and like, I have no problem with that. I really, really, really enjoyed it. And then I read Magnolia Parks by Jessa Hastings, which is just extremely dysfunctional rich kids in London with really messy and toxic relationships. I didn't know if I was gonna like this book because I think the miscommunication trope is infuriating, and trust me, there's a ton of it in this book. So I'm still kind of on the fence about the whole entire series because, I don't know, I think there's at least 3 Magnolia Parks books just about her, like just from the perspective of Magnolia and BJ. And I don't know if I can handle 3 books of them being in love with each other but not doing anything about it, or like almost doing something about it and then like something happens. I don't know if I could do that. So I enjoyed Magnolia Parks for what it was, like kind of just like a drama-filled good time. But I don't think it's like the best book ever written, which is fine. Like, that's not really like something that I'm expecting just from a random book that I pick up. But yeah, I enjoyed it for the messy, fun, good time that it was. Sorry if the lighting changed. The sun is currently setting while I'm filming this. Next book I read was Problematic Summer Romance, which is a sequel to Not in Love by Ali Hazelwood. And I love Not in Love by Ali Hazelwood. I reread that book this year and gave it 5 stars again. So I was extremely excited to get to this book because I know it's about Eli's sister Maya. So Eli's from Not in Love. And so it's taking place during Eli and Rue from the first book's wedding in Italy, which is perfect. I love weddings in romance books. I think it's so cute. Maya and Eli's relationship has been a little bit rocky because both their parents died when they were pretty young. At least Maya was definitely pretty young, and then Eli was just forced to like take guardianship over her, even though I think he was like freshly 20 or something like that. He was not very old to be raising a teenager, but he had to. And so their relationship wasn't the best, and basically she interacts with with Eli's best friend Connor, who's also like works at the same company and founded the company that Eli worked at. So Maya interacts with him and essentially like can't stop thinking about him for like years. And eventually they just need to work out their issues on this trip to Italy during her brother's wedding. I love Ali Hazelwood so much. I truly am obsessed with almost everything that she writes, and I would say almost now because I didn't love this book specifically because it's specifically the age gap romance trope, and I don't really love age gap romance in general, but specifically the way it was done in this book, it felt like it really bothered Connor, the main male character, and Maya was just kind of like, whatever, I don't care about it, so you shouldn't either. And I think it took a really, really, really long time for Connor to get around, or get over, basically, his feelings about being so much older than Maya. And I did not like that. I want a romance where they're both completely all in for the relationship. And I just feel like he was not all in, and I don't like that. So this was not my favorite Ali Hazelwood book, which is fine because she's coming out with like a million more. I swear that all the woman does is write romance books. Like, she's coming out with I think 2 more this year, if I'm not mistaken. So I also loved Deep End that she released earlier this year. So like, it's okay, girl. I still love Ali Hazelwood. And then I did a reread of People We Meet on Vacation by Emily Henry because that was the first Emily Henry book I ever read. I read it, I don't even, like probably 4 years ago at this point. When I first read that book, I gave it like 2 stars because, well, I know this now, but at the time I was looking for like a spicy romance, and Emily Henry doesn't really write like just spicy romances. Like, sure, her books sometimes have spice in them, but it's not like a spicy romance, if you know what I mean. So I decided to give it a reread, considering I love every single other Emily Henry book she's ever written. The funny thing is, I still didn't really love it. Like, I gave it 3 stars, so I guess I gave it a higher star rating, but I just don't think I enjoy Poppy as a character. Sorry, let me tell you what it's about. It's 2 best friends. Basically, they meet in college, and they make this pact to go on a trip every year. and they continue that into their adult life, and then you get a then and now timeline where it's them in college going on these annual trips, and then the now setting, they don't talk to each other anymore. And so then you see the now timeline Poppy planning a trip and deciding to invite Alex again, even though they haven't talked or they don't really keep up with each other anymore. So yeah, back to what I was saying. I don't love Poppy, the main female character. I don't really love her that much. I do think she's like maybe a little bit too quirky for me. And also something that really specifically bothers me about this book is the love confession. I feel like it's not a very good love confession. Like, I don't know, it didn't seem very romantic to me. It felt very, like, to me, in my personal opinion, it felt like they were both, like, settling. And that is not what I want from a romance book, obviously. So yeah, even though I did a reread, because I thought that my, like, thoughts were gonna change a lot, my thoughts didn't change a lot, but I do have more, like, reasoning to explain to you why I don't love that book that much. Okay, and then I read one of my favorite books this year. I can already fully confidently say that with my chest because I loved it so much, and that is The Night and the Moth by Rachel Gillig. So basically our main character is a diviner? I don't know. And she like lives in a little tiny community. I guess it's a, what's it called, a cloister of like these women who are all diviners, and basically what that means is they can see visions. Okay, hold on. So basically in this world their like religious structure falls under these omens, and basically the diviners have these visions of these omens, and then they translate it to the person who's having the like ceremony done and telling them if they are, I don't know, making a good decision or a bad decision, or like how their life is gonna go. Kind of like, I want to say it's kind of like tarot reading, but I'm like not 100% confident in saying that. I feel like that's a close comparison that I can make, but I'm not 100% sure about that. There's a new king, and he comes to the like church that these ladies all live in and gets a reading basically, and he brings along a knight, like his whole entire knighthood, his army, I don't really know. And after he has his vision read or whatever, his future read, I don't really know how to explain it, all of the diviners start to go missing. And so then she reaches back out to the king and his knights to try to figure out what is going on and why all of her like basically sisters are disappearing. I love Rachel Gillig's writing so much. She knows how to write a romantasy in this day and age. That is apparently a rare thing, because I have the personal feelings, and I have seen this on the internet before, where a lot of people are saying that a lot of romantasies are starting to like all sound the same, all read the same. There's like only a specific number of tropes that everyone is going, like that every book has, and all that kind of stuff. And something I love about Rachel Gillig's writing and her books is just how original they are, how unique they are, especially her magic systems, especially her like world building. Yeah, I just love her so much. I love this book so much. If you take one recommendation, have it be this one. Have it be this one. It's so good. It's so good. Okay, I almost forgot to say this. Something extremely, extremely, extremely important about this book is that there's a side character. He's a gargoyle, and he's the best side character I've ever read in my entire life. He's so cute. He's so funny. I love him so much. Like, whenever I was talking about the book earlier with the side character that was a cat that I like was longing to have like an actual connection to, Miss Rachel Gillig, she knows what she's doing, and she did it so fucking well. Like, so well. Like, I seriously, honestly cannot probably say enough good things about this book. I love it so much. Like, this, I say, sure, on Goodreads, I rated it 5 stars. I would say it's probably 6 stars. Like, solid 6 stars. Maybe higher. Who knows? When I reread this, it might go up. It might be 1,000,000 stars, because I love this book so much. On to yet another book that I am completely, totally obsessed with, and I love so dearly, and that is Bury Our Bones in the Midnight Soil. This is the special Owl Crate edition, if you don't recognize the book. Yeah, it's a special edition, so. First of all, I love B. Schwab. Second of all, this book is about 3 women in 3 different timelines, basically. We have a perspective of a woman who lives in Spain in 1532, a woman that lives in London in 1827, and then a girl that lives in Boston in 2019. The like tagline around this book, like when it was being marketed before it came out, was just toxic lesbian vampires, and I truly believe that is all you need to know going into this book, because that's what it's about in the best way possible. Like it's literally just about toxic lesbian vampires and like their lives, how they got to be vampires, what their life is like as a vampire, and they're kind of toxic. Well, actually, no, they're really toxic. And it's truly amazing, gorgeous, stunning, beautiful. I love V. Schwab's writing. This book is just as beautiful, stunning, and gorgeous as all of her other books. If you've never read a V. Schwab book, I do want to tell you that they're extremely character heavy. Like, I don't know if it's like technically a character study, because sure, it's like what is happening to these characters, but it's not like there's like a big like goal at the end or anything like that, if that makes sense. Also, highly, highly, highly recommend reading this book because I love it so much, and I like want to reread it already, even though I just read it. The next book I read was Rewind It Back by Liz Tomford. This book is the last one in the Windy City series, and it's about Rio, who is a hockey player, and then Hallie, I believe, and she is an interior designer, and they used to date in high school, and then they broke up, and you don't know why at the beginning of the book, and she is redoing his house, renovating his house, and so there's a little bit of course proximity in there as well, along with like tension from their past relationship, because at the beginning of the book you know that they did not end on very good terms, so they both don't like each other. Something about this book that I loved was that I actually really enjoyed the flashback scenes. I usually don't love second chance romance because I feel like they start the flashbacks too early. Like, I don't know the characters at the age they are now in the book, and so then I don't really care about them when they were teenagers and them like getting to know each other. But I think this book did a really good job of like keeping me invested in both timelines. And I think that their flashback scenes were so cute. Like, their little high school relationship was absolutely adorable, and I really, really, really enjoyed that aspect of it. The only issue I did have was I kind of started losing interest towards the end of the book, because I didn't particularly care about the found family aspect of the entire Windy City series, because I only read the second book about Ryan and Indy, and then I read the fourth book about Kennedy and Isaiah, and then I read the fifth book, which is Rewind It Back. And yeah, I don't like super care about the rest of the characters, and they were heavily involved in this book, obviously because it's the last book. So yeah, that was my only thing where like I kind of just started to lose interest, because they were bringing so many other characters into it. And yeah, I eventually was just like, I think the romance is cute, I'm happy for them, but like I don't really care. And I'm gonna end on a really weird note, because I feel like this book is kind of really out of character for me, but I want to put emphasis, I listened to the book Lights Out by Nevessa Allen, because I feel like I know this book went viral on TikTok, like, I don't even know how long ago, because people were loving the audiobook, and I recently went on a road trip to go see my sister, and when I'm on a road trip, I want to listen to something that's, like, really interesting, so I decided to go with this one, and it is a stalker romance, kind of, like, I guess that's what it's branded as, but, like, it sounds worse than it actually is. Basically, this girl, I'm gonna explain it to you, it sounds terrible, and it is kind of terrible, but to me, it just wasn't that bad, actually. So this girl follows a guy on TikTok, the book version of TikTok, whatever, and he makes thirst traps wearing a mask covered in fake blood, and she like is obsessed with this guy's account, and he like finds this out, knows her in real life, and like begins to stalk her. And then I don't know, it plays a lot into like both of them having specific sexual interests, which is like, I don't know, that's why I want to say it was very out of character for me to read, and like it was just like a funny good time. Like, I kind of was reading this just like with my jaw on the floor, because I was so shocked at the way that things were happening and like what was happening. But like, I'm not gonna sit here and recommend that to you like it's a great piece of literature, because obviously it's not. Like, yeah, it was just a fun good time, and that's all I'm gonna take it for. So yeah, just gonna leave it on a weird note, because yeah, that book is a little bit wild for me to read, and I acknowledge that. Okay, that is all the 22 books that I read in the past 3 months, and I would love to know if you have read any of these books and if you love any of the same books that I love, because I would love to talk about it. And also, if you didn't like any of the books that I didn't like, I would also love to talk about it. So yeah, just let me know what you've been reading recently, and hopefully I will see you next week for my next video. And yeah, bye.